Bill Rego.
There was nothing.
We'll find it again. All right, guys. Now, we're going to have a quick mini lesson today so you can get some reading done. At the end of the class, we're going to have a formative.
What?
Formative, yeah. I'll get your feedback right away so that you can be ready when the summative comes next week.
Next week is summative?
Before the break, yes.
What? What is the summative class about?
Next Thursday or Friday. So
we don't have one free?
not before the break. Now, in the class earlier in the week, we talked about considering power when there is a conflict between individuals, right? We looked at Will and his father, Will and Skip. We talked about power, right? And we asked, who has more power? How do you know? How do these power issues feel, or why do these power issues feel important? We talked about this with individuals, right? So today we're going to think about that in groups, right? So our goal is to consider how power imbalances affect characters and groups. All right, so I'm going to model this with the part of the story we read yesterday, and then you will do it with your group here at the carpet. All right. So we're going to go back into the story. Right, I'm going to follow my instructions up here. And thinking about power imbalances between groups. So the first thing I have to do up there is think about groups. We're going to think about the groups. These are groups that may be in your books. Okay? Ability, family structure, age, birth order, language, gender, interest, religion, socioeconomic status. Do you know what that means?
No. Class.
Kind of. It's like your how much money that person has, which class they're in, upper class, middle class, something like that, related to their income. So social groups can be based on these things, right? When we read about Francisco yesterday, we identified these groups. Kids new to a school, non-native speakers, workers who move a lot, kids without much money. Okay, so I'm going to take one of these, okay, and think more deeply about power. So I'm going to choose non-native speakers. Okay? Now, as I'm reading, I'm going to start with a part of the reading where the fact that Francisco's in this group, I'm going to look for a spot where that power imbalance kind of jumps out and think deeply about it. Right? So to remind you, I'll read the one section that jumps out at me. Okay? And you'll remember it from yesterday, because we talked about how your experience might be the same. Miss Scalapino started speaking to the class, and I did not understand a word she was saying. The more she spoke, the more anxious I became. By the end of the day, I was very tired of hearing Miss Scalapino talk because the sounds made no sense to me. I thought that perhaps by paying close attention, I would begin to understand. But I did not. I only got a headache. And that night, when I went to bed, I heard her voice in my head. Okay? So, I'm thinking about power that's related to being in a group, and a power imbalance. So, in this case, who has the power? Miss Scalapino. Why? She's the teacher, right? At home, Francisco speaks Spanish. At school, everybody speaks English. She's the teacher. Okay? Now, in school, he's there to learn, right? But how can he learn if he doesn't understand anything the teacher's saying? How can he learn? Can he?
No.
No, right? Is the teacher helping him?
No.
No, right? He gets yelled at later in the story when he speaks Spanish with one of the students who knows some Spanish, right? So here I see this power imbalance, and I ask myself, I said, where is this imbalance of power for this group? Find a specific scene. And so I found my scene, I just shared that with you. Now I'm going to ask, what might the effects of this power imbalance be? And so what's the effect? Okay, this is what I'm asking myself. He's a non-native speaker, he's in this English-speaking class. There's a big gap in power between people like Francisco and English speakers in school and the teacher. What might the effects of this be? Are there short-term effects? Are there long-term effects? And I think, well, he can't learn because he can't understand anything. There's no one to help him, right? She doesn't help. So the short-term effect of this is that he can't progress in school. And a long-term effect might be that he doesn't finish school. He doesn't graduate high school. He starts working on a farm like his father before high school finishes. Or he doesn't go to university. Right? He doesn't pursue higher education. He doesn't get a job that can support a family. Right? These might be long-term effects. Right? So I've started with thinking about a group the character's in, right here. Then I found a scene where that power imbalance really jumped out at me. And then I asked what the short-term effects and long-term effects of that imbalance might be. Right? Did you see how I did that? Kinda? So now that's what I want you to do. I want you to talk to your group. Okay? First, you're going to identify a group that your character belongs to. And then identify a scene where a power imbalance is obvious to you. And then think about short and long-term effects of that power imbalance. All right? Daniel Hahn, can you tell me what you're going to do? And if you need some help, you can look up here.
Think about power between two characters.
Okay, between groups. And Johan, what are you going to do next?
Ask where is there an imbalance of power for this group.
Right, and you're going to find a specific scene. So Johan, ask Kayla where the scene comes from.
Kayla, where is the scene comes from?
That's right, from your book, right? The book you're reading with your group. And finally, what's the last thing you're going to talk about? Teddy? Yeah, right. So how does that power imbalance affect our character in the short term and long term? So if I can find my timer, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, okay? Are you ready? Ready? Is everyone, you're with your group, right?
Let's talk about Stargirl.
Go.
What? Stargirl. I'll just explain. So I think like long-term effects are
Did you guys get these? Yeah. So what do you guys talk about? Okay, well maybe you have something. So Dan, did you notice? Did you see any of these things in Project Mulberry? What groups does your character belong to? Okay, so can we try to jump out of the book and think about the bigger groups that they might be in? Okay, so how many of you were able to get through these 3 points? One group? You want to do it together? Which book did you talk about? I believe in a thing called love. Okay, so let's hear, what's the group that your character belongs to that you're going to focus on? A nerdy senior.
Not really nerdy, but she's really good at studying. She's pretty and she's a varsity soccer star. And she's also a popular girl. She's like a popular girl and she has a perfect SAT score. Yeah. She's a varsity soccer star. And she knows all she has every university. And she knows every single university name. She's perfect.
Okay, so she belongs, what group does she belong to? Which one are you going to focus on?
Popular student.
Okay, so one of the challenges you might have when you're going through this, you might think of.
She also has one parent. Yeah, and her mom is dead.
So a single parent family, and then really popular.
Single parent family is one like that.
One parent.
Yeah. One mama, one.
Right, so one of the challenges with this is going from the book to a social group, right? Because you might think, it's just one person in my book, how can they, there's one main character, how can they belong to a group? Right, but you need, in that case, to jump out of the book. So for example, yesterday, you remember Sam Gordon? Right, the girl? Now we might say, she doesn't belong to a group because there aren't any other, no one else is dealing with that problem on her team. Right? But if we step out of that situation and step back, we put Sam Gordon into a group of girls. Right? Just girls in general. Not girls that play football, just girls. Right? So in this case, we could put that character into children with in a single parent household or popular kids. So which one did you focus on? Single parent family? Now, is it,
Yeah.
well, for this we just want to focus on one, right?
There's a lot.
Yeah, there will be many, right? But if you focus on just her being in a single parent family, right? How does this relate to power?
Her dad has much more power. She was watching a reality show on TV and her dad wanted to watch drama. So her dad took the remote from her and then he told him to give her the remote back. And then he smacked her on the head with the remote and told her that she has to watch whatever she wants to watch. That's because he works and she doesn't and she goes to school.
Okay, so The scene they chose is one where it's clear that the father is the only parent in the house, has a lot more power than their character. We would have to think more about how this is specific to the single parent family. Maybe there's more evidence in the book to go with that. And then what might the long-term effect, the short-term effect of this power distance be?
Long term would be that she's violating she might like move into a new home.
Or she gets into lots of relationships where she lets people take advantage of her because she's used to taking orders and doing what she's told by a man who's in a position of power. Right? So we need to think bigger than TVs and think about long-term effects. So, as you go back and read today, keep these things in mind. I want you to look at all these charts up here and think about what you're going to focus on today as you read. Are you going to focus on power with individuals, the groups they belong to, how power plays a role in those groups, or what imbalances exist? Okay, I'm going to add some more to this chart, but we can look at these things as well. All right, so head back to your tables. Reading notebooks are open. Okay, you can use my drawing as a model for your own in your book. You don't have to sit with your book. You're going to read and write independently. Yeah. Yes.